Recently, Department of Biotechnology has released guidelines for genetically engineered insects. You may have heard about genetically modified crops, such as the BT cotton or GM mustard. Then, what are genetically engineered insects? We will see that in the course of this video. UPSC has continuously asked questions on genetic engineering. In 2018, there was a question on GM mustard. In 2019, they framed a question on DNA research and also asked about the RNA interference technology. In 2017, they asked about genome sequencing. Considering the renewed interest in genetic modification, we should look at genetically engineered insects for the next prelims. We will study genetically engineered insects in 4 sections. First, we have to understand what is genetic engineering. Second, we will discuss why insects are genetically modified. Third, we will learn about the uses or application of genetically engineered insects. And finally, we will look at what are the possible issues associated with it. To cover this topic comprehensively, we have prepared a workbook on this topic. Please download the workbook from the link given in the description below. We will start with the first section, that is, what is genetic engineering? You know that DNA is the basic genetic material for organisms. DNA is like a set of instructions that tells your body how to grow, develop and function. It's like a secret code that determines your eye color, type of hair, etc. These instructions are organized into sections called genes, and each gene carries information for specific traits. Your body reads these instructions to create proteins, which are like molecules that do all kinds of functions in your body. Proteins helps to repair tissues, it defends against germs and carries signals between the cells. So the basic idea of genetic engineering is that by identifying and modifying a gene responsible for producing a protein with a particular function, for example, one that influences your vulnerability to a disease, you will be able to enhance your resistance to that disease. Now, let us move to a more complex scenario. Imagine we discover a gene in one organism that produces a protein which results in a desirable trait. Current genetic engineering tools like CRISPR enable us to cut that gene and attach to another DNA. So this enables us to bring that function found in one organism to another organism. For example, you may be familiar with GM crops like BT cotton. It is a type of cotton in which a gene from a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis, is inserted. Because of this inserted gene, the cotton plant secretes some toxins which keep the pests away. BT cotton thus contains the genetic material of cotton as well as the bacteria. Now we will move to the second part of the video, that is, why are we doing the same to insects? You must understand that insects are very important to human lives. There are many economically important insects, for example, the silkworm, from which we make the silk. Further, they are vectors of various dangerous diseases. Take the case of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are the world's most lethal animal. More than 10 million die each year due to mosquito-borne diseases. Then you may have heard about the locust attack in farm fields. Locusts are tiny insects which come in huge swarms and destroy crops in the vast area. Other insects such as the butterflies play a vital role in regulating ecosystem. So you can see that insects are very much vital in life. Then, if we are able to modify their characteristics through gene editing, it can be largely beneficial for us. And that is the reason why genetically engineered insects are important. Now we will discuss what are the potential uses of genetically engineered insects. To begin with, it helps to improve crop pollination. You may have heard that the decrease in bee population is posing a big challenge to worldwide food production. This is because bees plays an important role in pollination. To solve this, scientists are looking for ways to change the genes of bees to make them better at pollinating, so that even with fewer bees, we can still get plenty of crops from our farms. Second, for pest control. By altering the genetic structure of the pest insects, scientists can reduce traits that results in birth of fewer offspring. When these genetically modified insects are released into the wild, they mate with the native pest population and due to the engineered genetic changes, many of their offspring do not survive to the adulthood. Over the time, this leads to a gradual reduction in the number of pests without the need for chemical pesticides. Also note that unlike traditional pesticides which can harm other animals and disrupt ecosystem, GM insects specifically target only the pest species. This means less collateral damage to the environment. Third, for the disease control. You know that many diseases like malaria or dengue fever are spread by insects like mosquitoes. GM insects can be engineered to be resistant to these diseases. When these GM insects replace the wild population, the spread of these diseases can be reduced. Also, note about the gene-drive technology used to control the population of mosquitoes. Let me explain how this gene-drive technology works. Normally, you know that there is 50% chance for specific gene traits to be passed from a parent to its offspring. But with gene drive, a genetic element is engineered to increase the likelihood that a specific trait will be transmitted 100%. So with gene drive, we could ensure that GM mosquitoes spread faster in the population and eventually replace the entire wild mosquito population. Fourth, useful in biosensing. GM insects can be tailored to function as biosensors, that is, identifying and signaling the presence of certain contaminants. For example, they are useful in monitoring the quality of air and water, detecting landmines, or determining pesticide contamination levels in food or groundwater. Fifth, helpful in genetic research. By altering the genetic makeup of insects, scientists can investigate how the gene works. These modified insects serve as live models to observe the consequences of specific genetic changes, which can shed light on the fundamental processes of life. For example, by manipulating a gene that helps navigation in bees, we can see how these changes affect the way bees search for food. This can give us clues about how the sense of direction works in other species, including that of humans. Sixth, for healthcare purposes. GM insects can also be used as living factories to produce complex biological products. For example, certain insects could be engineered to produce a specific protein that is used in a drug to treat an illness. This can lead to development of new medications, vaccines, or diagnostic tools. So, this brings us to the final section. What are the concerns associated with it? Firstly, we don't know if genetic engineering will lead to only the intended consequences or if it will lead to something we do not expect at all. We don't know how these genetically engineered insects will interact with the natural or the wild populations and what their offsprings will be like. Secondly, the ethics of genetic engineering is always a hot topic. Some people advocate it for betterment of everything like crops, animals, or even human babies. Many oppose it on ethical, scientific, religious, and on the other grounds. So, addressing such concerns are necessary before we adopt genetically engineered insects. So finally, what kind of questions can we expect from this topic? For prelims, the basics, that is, what are genetically engineered insects? What are some methods, example the gene drive, on a conceptual level may be asked by UPSC. For mains, questions on India's approach to the regulation of genetically engineered organisms may be asked. As well as you can also expect ethical dimensions related questions in the ethics paper as well. To learn more about this topic, make sure that you are downloading Yoda IAS study packets. Link to download the workbook is given in the description below. So with this, we are concluding today's topic. See you in the next video. Take care and stay safe.